the Bears. We're determined and we just don't care who we play or who we maul. Our team's gonna rule them all. We're proud and we're tough. We're not stopping till we've had enough. We're mean, we're on the prowl. Our team's gonna knock them out. Everybody's gonna scream and shout.
And my advice to everybody in the district is to get behind the mighty Bears, because everybody likes the Bears.
I've changed my colours. I'm now a Bear supporter.
I'm a Bear backer. I'm a Bear backer. I'm a Bear backer.
I'm a Bear backer.
Hey, I'm a Bear backer.
I'm an old bear with blunt claws, but I'm still a Bear backer.
I'm a Bear backer too, and I'm looking forward to watching our team take up this year's premiership.
I suppose rugby league, we first had contact with rugby league through the primary school I went to, St Joseph's in Otahu, and the local football club, or Otahu Rugby League Club, supplied the football jerseys, so that's why we ended up playing rugby league. Rugby league and rugby union were both played in Otahu, and both at a pretty high standard. Auckland's most probably the stronghold for rugby league throughout New Zealand, and Otahu, amongst other clubs, are considered very strong clubs, and as we speak, they're leading the competition, the national competition at home. So rugby league has always been a blue-collar game in New Zealand, and I should imagine it always will be.
Well, it was very fervently followed, North Sydney and the Willoughby area. On our whole street would, on game days, would put out the flag and the red and black, or you'd hang them off the fence and those sorts of things. Actually, in our street, the McKinnons lived down the road. They're only about 10 houses away, and apparently Frank Stanton was once in our street, so there's quite a bit of history in Marlborough Road, Willoughby. And obviously the local shopping centre and the local butcher were big followers, so there was a real flavour of the Bears in the town. And it was, I think it was probably where I got the initial taste for North Sydney.
Back in 1973 was when I started coaching at Willoughby, and there was a young red-headed Flo running around in those days. He started out at Willoughby the same year that I started coaching, and Greg Florimo was a superstar back then, even in under-7s. He actually was under-7, but he started playing under-9s. And I suppose you could say he might have been the first person that I spotted, and definitely a great player then.
In the year that I went to senior football, was the first time I ever made representative football. That was 1975. We had a very good side that year at Otahu, and we won the Triple Crown, which is the Champion of Champions, and the Stormont Shield, and just the Fox Memorial. And that year we played Western Suburbs from Sydney, and we got beat 11-8, I think, in the dying seconds of the game. I went to the Kiwi Trials that year, played I think 5 games in 8 days at one stage, and was absolutely shattered. I was 19 at the time, and from there I just kept banging away until I made the Kiwi side.
To win a competition, it's not just 13 players going in the field. It starts at the beginning of the year with preparation, and it starts with good administration, good leadership from the boards or committees in those days, as they were.
If you look at the history of rugby league, the clubs that had strong managements were the clubs that did well. And Ken Arthurson at Manly, Peter Moore at Canterbury, people like McIntyre in those days at Canberra, that type of administration, and North Sydney were probably always divided.
First of all, Acker retired, Acker Forbes, and they appointed Ken McCaffrey as the new secretary-manager, they used to call it in those days, of the football club. And Ken was good mates with Ron Willey. Ron Willey finished his contract at Balmain, and consequently, sometime during the off-season, I guess, North announced that they were appointing Ron Willey as the new coach.
In the World Cup, and then '78, we came over here on tour, and that was quite a great experience. Obviously, you know, we didn't get paid any money for being on tour. We just had to leave our jobs and our families and just do your best in the meantime. But it was always, you know, you always got looked after. The family got looked after from the supporters at home, and it was a great experience for me because I actually got put in a room with the South Islander, and generally all the Auckland blokes roomed together, and it was the first breaking down of the different, I suppose, strongholds from within New Zealand, and I got to meet all the South Islanders and the West Coasters and that sort of thing. And when I first became a Kiwi captain in 1980, it sort of held me in good stead for knowing all those guys.
The good memories are things like the skateboard. That was the first place where the skateboard came out, and I'd ride from home to training.
I didn't like playing in the mud because I always found it hard to get my feet going when it was boggy or heavy or wet or whatever. So I liked to playing on a hard surface or a firm surface, and North Sydney Oval was both those things. And I used to love it. I used to make a lot of breaks for some reason. I think I was probably, I wouldn't say I was fast, but I was probably a fraction faster than the average front row forward, and I used to make a lot of breaks. And I think a lot to do with that was when teams would come to North Sydney Oval, they'd be terrified of how hard the ground was, and they didn't feel like tackling us. The downside was we didn't really feel like tackling them either.
Because of the change of the population, the sort of type of people who were getting elected to local government were different to the past. They weren't fanatical rugby league supporters. They were more interested in environmental issues. So the club was looking fairly sick in getting any sort of major redevelopment going at the ground. And really things were pretty much at a stalemate until Ken McCaffrey became secretary. And Ken, in my experience, was the only one that took a sort of balanced community view of the Oval.
1980, the year after Tommy, the year after we ran last, Ron Willie came in, and I think he was a very good man for that time. He brought a new discipline. He brought a very simple training program, a very simple game plan. And after a couple of dud years, I think we needed something back to basics. Ron was a guy that relied upon big, strong front rowers, and I think we had Donnie McKinnon, Steve Mayo, and a host of others, Stan Jerd later on. And he built the platform on big front rowers and running forwards and a very tight game. But for the first time in my career, he started running the backs into the play. And we didn't get the ball in the first 3 or 4 tackles, but at least he started bringing the back line in. And I think the problem of the 70s was that we played very forward-oriented rugby league, and it didn't lead to an expansive type game. And the wingers didn't touch the ball, and the centres didn't touch the ball as much. But Ron started bringing them in, and I think that was very good.
Yeah, it was an upward trend, especially after the dismal year we had in '79. Admittedly, we weren't world beaters in 1980. I think I'm not sure how many points we finished. I think we had 5 or 6 wins and a draw or something like that.
I was a North Sydney supporter because I was a local, because I'd started in Penrith and supported them. I'd moved to Blacktown and supported Parramatta. Then I came into town and I supported Balmain and moved to the lower North Shore. Norths, there they are. Terrific club, absolutely wonderful ground, and a sense of history of the North Shore.
In the 1970s and 1980s, I suppose junior league was great fun to be involved in. The business side of it wasn't there that there is now. The threat of litigation, which is present now, wasn't there. So it was fun to be there. I suppose you could also say that the booze buses weren't around. So when you had a meeting on a Monday night, which was a regular occurrence every Monday night, everybody used to come down, and you'd quite often stay till 12 o'clock having a few sherbets afterwards, which was quite good fun. Everybody got on well. The strength of the competitions wasn't bad. We used to combine, even back in those days, with Manly and some other districts. But overall, it was a good, strong competition. There was plenty of strong rivalry, but good friendship afterwards. And basically, it was just good fun to be involved in.
Graham Lowe, a great friend of mine, he went to coach them. He coached me from about 78, I think. He coached me in my last of my junior years. And then I was in seniors from 75, and then he came in at about 78, and then he left in 79 to go to Brisbane, and he needed some players up there, so he asked me if I wanted to go up, and I said, yeah, I'd like to do that. So I went up there at, I think I got $200 to sign on, and $100 a try, and $2 a minute for playing football and $4 for training, and obviously worked during the day from 6 o'clock till about 4 o'clock, and then went to training after that. So that was my first encounter with professionalism, and we ended up winning the comp that year. So I'd met Ken McCaffrey and Ron Woolley in the meantime, and they both impressed me as people, and I ended up going on tour, and later that year I was a captain of the Kiwi side, and we went over to Great Britain, and I was a captain. They rang me and they'd sent a contract over, and I had no idea about the prices to be paid or what have you, and I was talking about it with all the boys, and Ken was ringing in and, like putting some pressure on me, as it was his job. And they offered me a figure, and I said, I was pretty happy with it, just quietly, and he'd been around and given my then wife some money to look after the Christmas present side of things, and I was pretty impressed with that. And I said, yeah, look, I'll sign if you double what you've offered me. And he said, yeah, good as gold. I'll have the contract sent over you straight away. And that's how I got involved in North Sydney.
I played senior rugby with Manly from 79 to 81. And in that time I'd represented Sydney, New South Wales, and obviously the next step was Australia. And I was very fortunate to be selected in the Australian team to tour the British Isles, which comprised of playing against England, Ireland, Scotland and Wales. And it was a big tour. It was one of the biggest tours if you're to represent your country and obviously play for Australia and go on that tour.
1981, coming back to Norse, it was a big influence there was Ken McCaffrey and the club. I want to see Norse do well. I felt that at Manly I hadn't got a lot left in me, but the potential of coming back and playing for Norths and going in there and playing hooker and controlling that area around the ruck is what I wanted to do. That's what I was offered, and I said yes, I want to do it.
Well, very simply, in 1981, I think it was, so I just got a phone call at work from Ken McCaffrey asking me if I would like to start coaching again. And my immediate reaction was to say no. Then I had a follow-up call from Kevin Maher, who was then the chairman, and I went to see Ron Woolley personally to see if he was quite happy to have me as assistant. He was, and at that stage I'd had a break, and batteries were recharged and I was ready to go again.
Well, I can remember the first training session I had. We were down at Tunks Park, and I'd just come back from tour, so I was pretty fit for playing footy. But everything was more on the aerobic side of those days, and we were out for long runs. And towards the end of the training session, I had to go over to the conditioning staff and asked if to be let off because I felt like I was going to faint. And I knew all the, Don McKinnons and Steve Mayos and Johnny Grays and those sort of people were sort of looking at me sideways, but I was about to pass out. So that was a bit of a hurry up in that department. The second training session we had at Balmoral Beach, and I was living in Nashville at the time, and I borrowed a car to get over there, and I got there about 5 minutes late, which I thought was pretty good, never having driven in Sydney before, and having a road map lying beside me on the passenger seat. And the boys were just jogging out of the car park when I arrived. And I parked the car, threw the keys to an official and chased after them, and when I caught up with Ron Woolley, blew his whistle, stopped, got me in the middle of the pack, and said, if you ever turn up late again, that'll be the end of your contract. And I thought, wow, this is serious. So from there we trained very hard, and it was a real eye-opener to me to the extent to which they trained, and it was really hard physical conditioning the whole time.
Anyway, Mark came down the north, and the first thing I remember about him was a very impressive-looking guy. 6'3", and he wasn't huge build like he ended up being, but he was a big rangy guy. And you could just tell watching him at training there, a bit of class, good ball skills, exceptionally fast for a guy his size and for a forward. And plus he was a fantastic guy. And, all this is all well and good, but until you get on the football paddock. But I remember we played against Penrith in our first trial game, and after playing with him about 10 minutes, I thought, God, this guy's good.
We had a pretty good side, and I think the day that we played Manly was... we'd been beaten quite comfortably on a number of occasions prior to that, and Rex Mossop came down to the dressing room and said to Ron Woolley, who were they were both good friends, he said, see if you can get the boys to at least hang in there for a little while, because this is a television game, because if I remember correctly, it was played in the mud and the wet, and a lot of games had been cancelled that weekend.
North Sydney Oval, a surprising appearance really. It's wet, but it's not going to be too bad. Manly and Norths are our new contestants, and they're going to go around on this particular surface, which you see has been saturated with heavy rain for 48 hours, has had under 23 and reserve grade fixtures already played on it. North Sydney have had the misfortune to lose experienced forward John Gray, their captain and hooker. His place is taken by local junior Phil Ritchie, playing his first full grade game in first grade. And he's 21 years of age, and they tell me he started off his career as a halfback. New Zealand import Fred Arcoy has had to be replaced due to a septic ulcer on his shin. In comes Alan Smith, who will be remembered as the Queensland 5'8", who scored 4 tries against New South Wales in '79 at Leichhardt Oval. With 3 losses on the trot to Wests, Balmain and Easts, have the Bears dropped their bundle in '81?
I don't think so, Rex. We played a pretty good team last week in Eastern Suburbs, and it was 18-17. It was a game I feel we should have won, but East are a good side and they came home very strongly. I think you'll see how much we've dropped our bundle when we go out here against Manly today.
What about the state of the ground? Any special tactics?
Well, we'll kick a bit more than normal. I'm sure Manly will too. The ground's in surprisingly good shape, I think you'll agree.
Yeah.
It's good, it's good.
So it makes the other games that have been turned off today look a bit silly, are they?
Well, perhaps the other grounds don't recover quite as good as North Sydney does.
Yeah,
You think that would be it?
From your memory of it, North Sydney used to be called the Kalahari Desert.
Oh, it's improved a lot. It's a much better ground than people give it credit for, Rex. It gets a great deal of work, and it's got to stand up to a lot of football of all codes.
Anyway, back to the nub of the thing. It's the Bears today.
We think so, yes. We think the game's been made to suit us down to the ground, the conditions.
Very confident man. That's what I like, a bit of confidence. You can see the situation about 5 metres. Adams, the captain, still around about that position. Now the bomb goes up. It'll be a testing 1, 2. Dorothy not in position for that. In the in goal, who's got it now? It's a try. I think it's Mark Graham, is it?
Yes, Mark Graham.
Parsons about 15 metres out. He's about 20 metres in the sideline. And he sailed that one over left-footed okay. So the North Sydney surge away after about 14 minutes of play to a 5-0 lead. North Sydney leading 5-0.
It's a good run by Chris Luckman then. He's a 23-year-old local junior with North Sydney and has been with the club for about 3 or 4 seasons. A good, honest footballer.
Is my old mate Frank Hyde doing his call. Always good to see Frank looking in the pink. It's a scrum win to Manly. Martin to Gartner. Gartner up towards the halfway line. Looks for support out to Thompson. And it's out to Booth. Who's busted up the middle. He's got some pace and they let him go. Up to the quarter. Back to Gibbs. Gibbs does magically to hold that. Look at the head back. Running. And about 2 metres from the goal line. That's a good bit of football from Manly. And great cover defence from McCaffrey. What a fine bit of play. McKinnon. Graham. Right through. Evades the tackle. Should be a try. Burns got the pace to go with it. Gardner's not getting to him. He's there. It's a great try. All for Mark Graham, who made the initial bust. Went through a paper-thin bit of Manly defence, and really they're playing rather abject football at the moment. Right, well, there's Vorton getting pushed backwards. The North Sydney defence has been very, very good. Excellent since the start of the game. Gibbs, Martin, Thompson. Dorothy wrapped up the moment he got it. Gerard wrapped up straight away, loses the ball. North Sydney have kicked it through. This could be very interesting if the race of the ball is on. Graham's kicked it nicely, he'll score. My heavens, that's a good try, and you can put the glasses down now as far as Manly are concerned, in my view. That was right a solo effort. Graham who's been the man of the match. Don't look any further than him.
Well, it's coming on pretty good. I had the ulcer taken out of it last Sunday.
And you could be playing next week against Newtown?
I should be 100% this weekend coming up.
Tell me, Fred, you were selected as a winger when you first came here. You've played some games in the centre. You happy to play anywhere, or do you want to play in your test position at 5'8"?
Well, I've always played centre and 5'8" for my club and also for New Zealand back home. And I think I was picked here to play 5'8", but the way things are going with the team and that, and there's tremendous talent in the side. I think it's going to be pretty hard to get your rightful position. So anything that goes, you want to sort of jump in and grab it.
That's Fredo Cooey. Dorohee's kick is successful, so Manly reduced the deficit slightly. 13 points to 4. Not the most constructive player in the team, but very solid. Kinnan had Brockwell in support, couldn't unload. Here's the bomb coming, is it? Yes. McCaffrey gets a kick up. Dorohee's there in position. Oh, it's a try to North Sydney, another one. And that is scored by Keith Harris. 4 tries to 0. Another one from a bomb. And the last tackle, Manly being waved back. Here's another bomb. Dorohee takes it, drops it. There'll be another try to North Sydney. It is, yes indeed, why not? Let's score with all the bombs. That's ridiculous, but there it is. Alan Smith. Alan Smith coming up for a try, and it's a bit fitting because he had the misfortune to drop a ball over the line after a Mark Graham pass about 10 or 15 minutes ago.
Well, first onto the field is the home side, the high-flying Newtown Jets, who have won their last 4 games and a Tooth Cup match with that combination. It remains unchanged today. The man to watch in particular, or the men to watch in particular, the half 5'8" combination of Ken Wilson and Phil Sigsworth.
There's Kenny Wilson, the veteran match winner, who after more than a decade in first grade has suddenly become a glamour player for Newtown. A great goal kicker and highly accurate kicker in general play.
The North Sydney Bears, the giant killers again last weekend when they defeated Manly in the wet. They've had a few changes made to that winning combination. One man they'll sorely miss is John Gray, but 5'8" Fred Arcoy returns. He and fellow Kiwi Mark Graham are expected to have a big impact on this game this afternoon.
Solid tackler, Keith Harris. That man is Mike Pittman. 10 metres out from the quarter. Wilson. Bugden's pass will... He said play on, that's Hetherington. North have stood off him. It's going to be a try, is it? Ferguson into the corner. Well, what... Wilson. O'Grady's popped it to Ryan. Oh, beautiful football. Pudgy has scored for the Jets.
Oh, that's great football. And Kenny Wilson put a lot of depth into their play. And this Newtown side, good luck to them. They're not playing the game by the textbooks.
Graham's kick across to centre Adam, who turns it back inside to Luckman, and on it goes to Brockwell. Back it goes now to the centre Adam, and that is a try. Well, what a freakish try. Somebody said the Bears are off. They're not off yet. Down 8-3. McCaffrey. Oh, he got an ankle tapping tackle from O'Grady. Last tackle coming up now for the North Sydney Bears. McCaffrey gets it high. No pressure for Sigsworth. Watch out, he's off. No, he's not. They've got him 15 metres out from his line. So it's North with McCaffrey. Now Jerd. That's a good run by the big man.
Can't catch too well, but he can certainly run when he gets a go on.
Yeah, good as goal. Now Alan Smith comes in on the blind. Oh, he's away! The Bears are screaming back into this game now.
Well, that's the old chestnut move, the half to lock from the scrum, and Newtown fell for it.
O'Grady may bomb here. No, it's the pass to Sigsworth. Now to Blacklock. And then to Pudgy. Pudgy turns it on the inside. Blacklock to Ferguson. Very quick pair of hands there.
Mayo on, Mark Graham off.
Well, he's persisted, if nothing else, Mark Graham.
Yes, he has. I think he probably stayed on at the request of his coach. There's Ron Willie gone to the sideline to thank Graham for his effort against the odds.
Oh, the scrum has flared up and O'Grady is tackled 9 metres out from the line. But the punches are flying in there. The punches are really flying. As a matter of fact, these two sides were responsible for a disgraceful argument in an Amco Cup match many years ago. That scrum absolutely erupted. Well, here's the scrum. Watch it. It sort of comes up as though somebody's driven a big pole up the middle of it. Watch this. All of a sudden, the boys become a little bit dissatisfied with proceedings. Bowden with a swinging right, and then
there's McKinnon now, and he ends up on the bottom of all this at the end of it.
Ryan. There goes Bowden. He's 5 metres inside the 22.
Last tackle.
Ken Wilson, a shot at drop goal. It's high, it's long, it's absolutely beautiful for the Newtown Jets. 9-8 breaks the deadlock. Played by Harris. McKinnon
and Mayo making some good inroads now into this Newtown defence.
Here comes Jerd. Through Ritchie. Out wide to Adam. Turns it back for Paul McCaffrey. He's got support, and it's gone on there to the second row. Keith Harris, now it's Alan Burns.
Oh, great try.
Or is it Harris?
No, I think you're right, it's Alan Byrne.
Paul McCaffrey was a very talented player, a great runner with the ball in his hand, tremendous pace, step, probably not the best pass for a halfback, but he made up for it with a lot of other skills. While he was with his father as general manager, his brothers came through and played lower grade. I think David played and Michael played, and so yeah, McCaffreys were a big part of for about 10 years. But it never impacted on Paul. He never got any favours. He didn't get the door open because he was a McCaffrey. In fact, probably had to earn his stripes a bit more than anyone of his equivalent.
Well, our Man of the Match award tonight goes to a relative newcomer to the game, but he certainly follows in the footsteps of an illustrious father. He's the young halfback for North Sydney, Paul McCaffrey. Paul, congratulations, well done. And I guess that last-minute win today would have made up for some of the last-minute losses North have suffered.
Yes, well, this year we seem to, in past years we've lost by the odd point fairly often. But this year we seem to be fired up by Ron, and we've got ourselves firing as well. Things are just happening for us this year, whereas last year we just seemed to be unlucky all the time.
Well, as you say, things certainly happened in that second half today. Any special reason for North's firing like they did?
Oh, no, we realised at half-time that Newtown were, we realised that we could get back into the game. And Ron just gave us a few words at half-time. That seemed to spur us on. He didn't get angry with us or anything, but...
Certainly did the job all right. You must have felt good sending up that pass for the North Sydney try.
Yeah, well, I'd like to give a lot of credit for that to John Adam, because I just happened to be in the right place at the right time. And Burnsy certainly came on the ball hard. I looked up and he was beating all the players, so I just happened to be in the right spot.
Well, that was a great effort. Let's hope you continue on that winning streak, Paul.
Well, a 13-8 victory over South last weekend at heavy going at North Sydney Oval, and the return of Kiwi internationals Graham and Arkoi have the Bears in the correct frame of mind for this very important clash. It's not often in recent times that Norths can boast of being in the 5. A loss today would see them blow their eminent position. Drop out to restart. Results of the earlier matches. In reserve grade, Cronulla Sutherland 13, North Sydney 8, and a resounding victory in the under-23s to Cronulla 38-18. Hatch, strong young player, up to the quarter line. Coy the tackler. Beckett, Dane Sorensen, almost through. Powers his way to within 10 metres of the North Sydney line. Beckett, Hansard, Forrest, Mullane, Burns in. Pretty simple stuff, just chain passing. They had a man over and made it look very simple. 3-0 Cronulla lead, 1 try in the match so far to John Byrne, the centre, and we've had 16 minutes of play. Alan Burns, North Sydney's live wire lock. McCaffrey, not McCaffrey, that's Wilkie. I've never seen this lad play before. From Gosford, Barry?
Yes, that's right. He lives up there and makes the trip down to North Sydney for training 2 or 3 times a week, plus comes down to play. So he's doing a lot of mileage for his football.
Oh, there's a heavy knock. Sorensen in hard on Jerd. Gray back into Graham, and then on to Arcoy. The pass then out to support number 9 was Keith Harris, and they're picked off only a metre away. Dane Sorensen. Hansard. Oh, the intercept, it's a try to Burns. Put the glasses down, he's bolted. Away he goes. Underneath the post, or beside the posts. The pass from Hansard was the one that was snaffled. Easy. So, for the first time, North Sydney lead by 5 points to 3. On the halfway line. That should be 6 to go, but Gray's got it off the ground. He wasn't tackled. It's useless, the crowd booing. He dived on the ball and wasn't tackled, was able to pass it off the ground, and that's quite within the rules. Jerd popped a beautiful pass up to Mark Harris, striding away well. Got a pass back inside there to Brockwell. Brockwell only 10 metres out. North Sydney on the rampage at the moment. Last tackle coming up. Moving it across the line quickly to Gray. There to McKinnon. McKinnon away to Arcoy. Arcoy's pass looked a bit marginal to Graham. Graham there, no, half a metre short. There's an important scrum win. Arcoy scoops it up for North Sydney. Should be a try on here. Wilkie's in. The little fullback has scurried his way over for his 2nd try in 2 first-grade games. Kicking directly into the breeze, which seems to have lessened a bit, Barry.
And at the moment it is, Rex, but it's still there high up, and that's where John Gray's got to get it through and keep it low.
He's done just that. It's a great goal to the Englishman. And the North Sydney side surge away to a 10 points to 3 lead. Little Wilkie slowly to his feet, the fullback. McCaffrey and McKinnon only caught by 1 leg, close to being through. That was a Dane Sorensen clutch that stopped him. McCaffrey, Arcoy. Beautiful pass to Harris, he'll score from 20 metres out, and he goes. A beautiful pass from Arcoy. And straight through he went, delighted as the big fella. Hansard. Dane Sorensen. Beckett, Khan. They'll be past to Mullane, Mullane right through. Here's Wilkie. Wilkie takes his man, but the pass goes to Burke. To Jarvie, and Jarvie's in for the try. 13-12. North Sydney hanging grimly to this lead with 24.5 minutes to go. Hansard. Forrest. Byrne. Mullane again. Back on the inside to Byrne. Oh, look at this, Jarvie's taken an inside pass and bolted. Oh, great stuff. Highly spectacular football. Scrum now for a North Sydney feed. It's 5 scrums in a row that Norths have won since Wilson's come on. Burns come away with a good size stepping break. The middle got it to Arcoy. The pass back to Byrne. Then away to Graham. It's away to Brockwell. It's on then to the wing three-quarter, number 5, Luckman. And he's in for a try. What a spectacular bit of football brought about by a great break by Byrne on the inside. That was a top-quality bit of football. Graham nicely transferred to Brockwell. He did everything right. There was the cover coming across in the shape of Rick Burke. He got it down. 16-17. Gray with a kick from the sideline. Oh, it's curving, but not enough. The statistics at this point in time. The scrums have gone to North Sydney 12, to 9. The penalties have gone 14 to 6 to Cronulla. There's another scrum win to North. They've got no option, they've got to move it. Harris through the gap, sprinting away strongly, looking for support. It's a Rogers tackle, a dying tackle, a beautiful tackle, worthy of our Corrugated Papers award, that one. Beautiful tackle, could have saved the day. Brockwell. Mark Graham belted down by Mullane as time, according to our clock, is up. That should have been a penalty. It is a penalty against Burke for grabbing hold of the leg of Graham when he was in an offside position. Now John Gray doesn't realise what the story is. A message has just come out.
To have a kick at goals.
And let's have a talk with Ron Willie if he can talk.
Mate, possession's been the story of this half, Ron.
Oh, it's been a wonderful display by my fellows today, Barry. They've tackled themselves to a standstill. They're still in front 4 tries to 3 and a penalty count of about 15 to 4 against them. So one great performance, whether we kick this goal or not. We deserve to kick it because we're a better side.
Well, John Gray's got a massive kick in confronting him. It's about midway between the half and quarter. It's about 4 metres in from the sideline. The breeze is in his favour. It's within his range, but it's not an easy kick. And this is the ball game. The crowd reacting as you'd expect. He struck it. Oh, it's just bumped under by 4 or 5 feet. And the whistle's going to go. There it goes, is it? That's the end of the game, and an absolute cliffhanger with the Cronulla side running out winners by 17 points to 16 for the North Sydney side. Tries, and they scored 4 to 3 to Wilkie, Luckman, Burns and Harris, and only 2 goals to John Gray. Righto, Alan, fire when ready. And that's a beauty, right through the middle for a 10, elephant's eye. And an elephant's eye. He likes this side, doesn't he? Oh, only a 7 that time, fallen away. And another 7. 34. Alan, you got a good day because you won 50 in that little passing competition, and you weren't aware that you won 150, and there's your cheque for that. That's for the man being the man most responsible for the Luckman try, which was the try of the match.
Thanks very much.
$200 for a bloke. How old are you?
20.
That's not a bad day's work, is it? And what about this afternoon?
Oh, we should go well, Rex.
You think so?
Yep.
All right, well, that's good. And let me tell you, this boy has got a very, very good future and perhaps might have to build himself up a little bit. Has anyone said that to you?
A lot.
Yeah, right. So maybe a little bit more weights around the top and so forth, but very bright future. Quick around the field, takes nice intercepts occasionally and sets up good tries. Good stuff.
Well, in 1981, Queensland had dominated rugby for many years. They had players like Tony Shaw, Mark Lane, they had a big pack of forwards, and it just happened that in the year 1981, New South Wales got a couple of good young players, such as myself and my brother Philip Cox, Mark, Glenn and Gabriella, Michael O'Connor, Michael Hawker, and some exciting forwards too, like Simon Portervin, Steve Williams, and we just moulded a good young team. We started to beat Queensland at that stage. And I think going back to David Lord, he was obviously a staunch New South Welshman, and he wanted to see more of the New South Wales players in the test teams, but that didn't happen because Queensland had been so dominant over those years and obviously the coach was from Queensland too, and he obviously selected the players he felt he could trust them.
But the loss, the 3-1 loss, that was a devastating loss.
Well, it was. The thing is, Paul McLean, who was the goal kicker at Queensland, he was the fly half too, but everyone wanted Mark Ella to play, but he just had a bad tour because he was a goal kicker and he missed goal. He didn't have a very good tour with the kicking. But in all those test matches, we outscored each team like in Scotland, we got beaten by Scotland 25-22. We scored 4 tries to 1, so that's how we got beaten. We didn't kick any goals. After the 1981 season, we had a fairly good year, and we obviously needed, something to lift us a little bit higher. And I remember Ken McCaffrey talking about signing Mitchell Cox, rugby union player. And I'd heard a bit about Mitchell, seen him play for the Wallabies in the 81, I think it was 1981 tour. Anyway, sure enough, they signed him up, and he came to training, and he was a good little guy, fitted in pretty good, and he didn't go straight into first grade. They kept him in the trials in reserve grade for a while, and I'm not even sure if he played in the first grade right from the first premiership match or not, but
anyway, when he did get there, that, you know, he was there to stay. He was obviously a classy player, and he made a big difference to us. And you know, he's a big reason him and, you know, Mark Graham and John Gray were, you know, big reason why we made the semi-finals in '82. They just added that little extra bit of class to our side.
Just a very quick remark. Jeff Simmons, who used to be the halfback for North Sydney that had an accident some years ago after a football game in Queensland, and as a result of the accident finished up a paraplegic, had his wheelchair stolen from the North Sydney Leagues Club last week. And to the animal who stole it, a very happy time for you, my friend. I'd like to get my claws on you. I'd make you steal wheelchairs. You'd need one yourself if I could get my hands on you. We'll take a break and we'll come back.
We had the concrete park theory, and when we ever played at home and there was any interviews done, we'd always say, yeah, it'll be good to get them on concrete park. And you could see the colour draining out of sides as they ran out of the football field and they stood around the cricket pitch. And I can actually remember an incident playing with Keith Harris, and Stumpy Stevens was playing with Parramatta then, and both of us tackled him, and he ended up going backwards on his head onto the cricket pitch, and it just split him like someone hit him with an axe.
1982 season started off really well for us. We were full of enthusiasm. We realised from the previous season that we'd got a lot of talent, a lot of potential, a much quicker side than we've had for a long time in the backs, and we knew our forwards were a good strong pack, and there was no reason why we couldn't have a really good season.
1982 was an exciting year. I think I joined North because they had bought a number of players, such as Mark Graham. John Gray was playing there. We had Simon Brockwell, and another couple of younger players there. And that year was, you know, we had good coach in Ronnie Willie, and we had successful because we were winning games. And it was the first time North in a long time was starting to win games.
The centre's getting it back, and Alan Burns takes it up for North. Good long run and a high pass out to Luckman. Luckman can't beat Wayne Smith. Good play nevertheless by North. Burns. Gray. That's a nice pass. McCaffrey's through. Pull back to beat. McCaffrey's going to score. Good try to North Sydney. Lovely try. Cox, well handled. Got away from Duke. He's got too much pace for Duke. Lovely tackle by Greg Cox, but that's a good run by the other Cox, Mitchell Cox. Gray. Cross getting a good pass out wide, and another break made by Wilkie. Wilkie's away, got support, Jeff Case mowing him down, intercepted by Wayne Smith. North playing all over the Magpies at the moment. Moutier. Goodwin. Lamb to Cooper, getting on quickly, well handled by Broughton. Broughton's got a load of pace. Burns chasing. Broughton's got support inside. Looks for Lamb, and Terry Lamb can't handle it. Alan Burns has got it. Well, Norths have got an overlap out here. West's cover coming across. Nice dummy. Mitchell Cox getting it there to McKinnon. That's great rugby league from both sides. McCaffrey. Cross. Getting it out. Crosses. About 26 metres out. Gray. Inside to McCaffrey, straight down the middle. McCaffrey looking for a second try, turns it away there to Alan Burns. Burns is in, good try. North's running riot at the moment. Lovely try, McCaffrey starring in that one.
Mitchell Cox was a great talent. He'd come from a tour of England in rugby union, and he was fast, and he was just a tremendous bootlace tackler. But he had this magic pass, torpedo pass, which would be similar to the passes which are playing the game now. But he had it in 1982, and he was one of the few players that could give 20 to 30 metres onto a pass and give his outside backs room to move. And he was a tremendous player to play with.
My first game I played against Eastern Suburbs, and that was one game that stood out for me because everyone was looking to me whether I could make it in rugby league, and I felt I played a fairly good game that day, and of course we won the game as well. So I think that game against East, my first game, and the game against Manly, who even though I played Manly rugby union, I beat Manly 31-10 in that season. It was good to beat Manly because they were a very, very good team at that time.
It was in the second half of the season. In fact, we were in the middle of a pretty good winning streak in '82. And it was at North Sydney Oval, and we were playing Manly, the great local derby. And Manly, I think, were running, if not first, the second. Parramatta Manly were close to the top, and we were fast approaching both of those teams. And Chris McGrath came into the dressing room. Now, virtually no one knew who Chris McGrath was, but we all knew about 1922. And when you haven't won a premiership for so long, 1922 suddenly becomes, the players become a legend. They reach legendary status, and we'd often seen Herman Peters at games, and he'd come down to the dressing room, and so we were well aware of 1922 team, and on occasions other players would come and Herman would introduce us. And this particular day, Chris McGrath came in, and I can't remember what he said, but I can remember him being there. And football's a funny game that you don't need too much to tip the balance from being an average performance to being a good performance. You just need a bit of extra adrenaline and a bit of momentum. And when we ran on the field, we were remembering, let's do this for Herman and Chris, and let's go out and show them that we can be as good as 1922.
Always a tough game is the local derby between Norths and Manly, particularly when the venue is North Sydney Oval, where a good crowd has turned out to watch the intact Bears side take on the joint competition leaders Manly. Norths, one of 4 teams level in 6th place on 15 competition points, lost a tough one to St George last round, which knocked them out of the top 5. But halves Paul McCaffrey and Mitchell Cox have been getting very good notices over the past month and have built up a very good combination. It's in the forwards, however, that the Bears have staked their claim. They have enormous men like Don McKinnon and Steve Mayo, both over 16 stone and very powerful in the front row of the scrum. Backed up, of course, by the pace and mobility of Kiwi Test captain Mark Graham in the second row. However, the danger man for Manly must be Englishman John Gray, whose all-round skill as a hooker, goal kicker and ball user make him a formidable opponent. North Sydney led by their skipper Mark Graham. This is the full side: Larry Kelly, Andrew Simons, Nigel Tate, John Adam, Chris Luckman, Mitchell Cox, Paul McCaffrey, Alan Burns, Peter Cross, Mark Graham, Don McKinnon, John Gray, Steve Mayo. Coach Ron Willie. Now the Manly side, led by their skipper Max Krilic. The full team: Graham Eadie, John Rebo, Martin Meredith, Michael Blake, Phil Carey, Philip Blake, Alan Thompson, Paul Borton, Les Boyd, Paul McCabe, Mark Broadhurst, Max Krilic, Jeff Gerard, coach Ray Ritchie. Referee Mr Dennis Braybrook. Gray, McCaffrey, Cox. Oh, it's a brilliant, incisive little run from him, but he runs into a wall of trouble there. McCabe was there to greet him. Gray from dummy half. Pass knocked down, kick back. Play on, 6 to go. Mark Graham in possession, about 8 yards out from Manly's line. McKinnon. How to use that giant hip of his as a fin. There's the shot, showing how close they are to the line. Sea of faces in the background. Some pretty solid stuff going in there in the way of defence there. Vaught, the tackler. Mayo. He's in. Big Steve Mayo. John Gray round the corner kicker. No trouble at all with the Englishman. Now Manly's chance to attack. Thompson. Blake, beautiful pass there to McCabe. Lovely pass there to Eadie, who hits the line hard. Here comes Rebo on the outside. The pass has gone anywhere. Could end up with Noyes North, so it was an awful pass. And Andrew Simons comes up with it. And now Kelly. Graham Eadie hit the line beautifully, penetrated well. Rebo wasn't quite with him, through a pass that was not good. Well done, McKinnon. Nicely to McCaffrey. There's Graham out in his own. And North Sydney really putting the cleaners through Manly at the moment in terms of attack. McKinnon pops the pass up the Cross. Cross looking for support, and Manly really on the rack at the moment. We've had 19 minutes. Gray, the little kick through. I think Manly have come up with possession. There's Boyd. Is it a quiet opening to the game? Well, quiet in the sense of football involvement. He had a little altercation with McKinnon, which is not quite. The ball being stolen. Cross has taken it away. He's going to spin it and score a try underneath the post. Oh, yeah! Well, I think that was from Vol4. Tackling of North has been well up to standard. Long floating pass out to Boyd. It's a pass back into Vol4. Vol4 on the travel. There's Blake. He's got some pace, this lad, too, I can tell you. Gave it to his brother. The pass to Gerard. Picked up. And nicely away to Krilic. Krilic is only about 10 yards out. And he's lost the ball. Well, bless my soul. Maxi Krilic. Another cardinal blunder. Gray. Mayo. Move on at the moment. I see Graham nodding his head to Gray. McKinnon. Hit hard by McCabe. Gray doing a lot of organising there at the moment. Here's cross running as a foil. Gray back inside. It's a try. And I've talked about it. I was second to say before. Gray and Graham had that on from the word go. 2 rucks before. And it was only a matter of time before that defence was just split. Eadie left behind. Graham through so easily. Now watch Gray. Beautiful bit of football. Sucked the defence to him. Graham Eadie left there with Krilic. Ian Thompson ran as a foil. His namesake, Alan Thompson, who to my mind is just a little bit slow for a halfback. There's Gerard made a bust. Unloads nicely the ball. He's in beside the post. Krilic, Vorden, hurling himself at the line. Must only be about a yard and a bit away. There's Krilic in. Krilic in. Banged the ball down hard. We'll see that clearly from the head on, I think. That's going to be a controversial one.
Yeah, several of the North Sydney players disagreed with referee Braybrook over that try.
Well, players always will, Barry. I mean, there's not a footballer on the football field ever tells the truth.
Yeah, well, that's, of course, if that makes...
Of any era.
But they did, 2 or 3 of them had something to say to him, and Captain Mark Graham had to restrain several of them.
Right, well, we're back with the action, and it's North Sydney hanging on to a 1-point lead. Oh, there's Eadie trying to pass. It's been intercepted by Adam. It was never on. What an absurd pass to throw. 10 yards, 15 yards from your line. And an international throws a pass like that when he's half tackled. Right. Wilson. Cross. Useful player. Mitchell Cox out to Gray. Flicked on the inside to Graham. That was a Brian Lockwood pass to Neil Pringle at Leichhardt Oval several years ago.
1976 MK Cup final, yes.
Gray. Mayo. Graham. Manly on the rack again. The big North Sydney forwards powering through. Gray. Cross. It's a double movement, evidently. McKinnon lost the ball. Gray has it. Gray is backslammed hard by Boyd. Quite legitimate. Strikes for the ball. Gray throwing punches at Boyd. I don't know what the story was going to be with that. I don't believe Boyd did anything illegal. He struck for the ball, which he's entitled to do. See the incident again. Now there's the tackle. And Boyd gets up. And he's allowed to strike for the ball. The ball was on the ground. At that point, John Gray took exception to it. I must agree with the referee on that occasion. Boyd is entitled to strike for the ball, which he did. It was on the ground. And Gray, being an old stager, resented the fact that I think he was upstaged a bit. Mitchell Cox evades 1, 2, through. He's going to score. It's a brilliant try. That's the clincher, I would think.
Mitchell Cox with a great bit of broken field running just carved the Manly team up. Blake tried desperately to cover. That was a spectacular solo try. Gray. Yeah! And the roar of this massive crowd here at North Sydney Oval. I'm sure that's the largest whacking Max Quilic has had in several seasons.
He hasn't been beaten too many times this year.
Graham, right up the middle, threadbare. Adam will go on and score. Oh, they're rubbing the salt into the wounds now. Awful defence by Manly. Right up the middle of the ruck. John Gray acknowledging it. I don't think he's terribly concerned, but look at this penalty count. It's 15-6 in Manly's favour. Vaughn Thompson. Blake. So easy. And there's a belated try. The touch judge has disallowed it. Well, he's a bit late. Better late than never. That's a ridiculous. Good tackle by Kelly, whichever way you look at it. He might have been over the sideline, but the touch judge didn't rule on it early enough, so we'll say it was a good decision, rather belatedly given. But what a caning this North Sydney side have given Manly today. Have they smacked their bottoms? Oh no, and they're not finished yet. Simons has gone up the sideline. He's got Edie. Edie's done him. That's a great bit of cover there by Graham Edie. I reckon Simons would give him maybe 10 yards and 100. McKinnon. And still the North Sydney Raiders, the Red Raiders of North Sydney, not the Grizzly Bears. Gray had a quick look then as he passed that ball. Burns. Knocked back. Mitchell Cox with a long looper. Look at this, they got a million over here. And Kelly's in, wide out. 7 tries. Gray. Play broke down here, but still they come up with it. Mitchell Cox's pass was magnificent. Adams' pass to Kelly was equally beautiful. And despite the fact of being dragged over the touch-in goal line, it was a try. Well, Manly be praying for the bell. Adam, beautiful. Still had a man over. And Kelly in. 1 yard in from the sideline on the quarter line. Gray just hooked that away a fraction.
Mark Graham was a terrific player from the point of view of understanding where to run in a hole. He used to have that instinct to know that there was a gap there, that I could get it to him, and that he knew that that was going to be a clean break for him most of the time. I don't think there's been any other player like him that I've played with. The only one who came close to that was Bruce Walker, who was very good also. If you'd had those two players side by side, it would have been a marvellous second row combination. But Mark also, I mean, although he knew where the gap would be, he had the power and the stride and the strength to also sort of break sort of half a tackle going through. And Mark was always there. He's the one person you could rely on all the time to be there. His fitness level was immense, because not only the running he did, but of course the tackling he used to do. He'd do 30 plus tackles every game. Marvellous player.
No quarter hour still given. Mayo. Pass to Graham. Graham hop, skips and jumps, gets it away to Kelly, and Kelly's going to score. A bit doubtful about a try back there, a pass back there and halfway.
There's two types of captains. You have a tactical captain, and you have a captain that leads from the front. Well, Mark Graham was the latter. He led from the front. Come on, guys, follow me. I'll win this game for you.
Probably two of the unsung heroes of this North Sydney unit. Here's McCaffrey making a splicing run. I was referring to their centres, John Adam and Simon Brockwell. They've got little of the praise heaped upon the likes of the Coxes, the Grahams, the Greys and the McKinnons and company.
Well, they're certainly the two that provided real headaches for Souths out there this afternoon, because they made 3 or 4 real decisive breaks through the centres.
Not far from the South line now. Graham has gone right through. He's over to score the first try. That's disappointing from South. Was Brennan the man beaten in that tackle? So Kelly's kick is a beauty. And North lead now by 7 points to 4. McCaffrey. Cox. Long pass perfectly directed to Luckman. Over the halfway line. Inside comes Mitchell Cox, but he's put down. McKinnon. Short ball to Cox. And he's down 7 metres out. Ritchie. Now cross. Stands and gets it down to Graham. Out to John Adam. There's another try coming, I think. Brockwell. He gets it away to Keith Harris. There's the second North Sydney try. They lead by 10 points to 4 now. Adam. Brockwell goes ahead. Over halfway. He beats Wells. Arneal from behind has missed him. Niscott comes at him. He beats him too. Oh, what a great try by Brockwell. What a great try by Simon Brockwell. North leading 13 to 4 now. McKinnon. McCaffrey. Over halfway. Cox. Looking out wide for Simons to go ahead towards Niscott. Steps inside him, stands in another, picks up Brockwell. Brockwell's going in for his second try in the second half, is he? Yes, I'll tell a man he is. Brockwell has scored his second try, and the Bears are carving up the Rabbits. 18 to 4 now. Cox, Adam, Cox, Kelly. Kelly inside, there's Adam. There's Luckman. Brockwell's coming up with Kelly. Luckman, will he find Brockwell? Oh, he didn't have a look. He didn't have to. He's over. Boy, oh boy, was that a good try.
Actually, they were a little bit unlucky that they weren't putting tries like this together on a Wednesday night, because you'd have had some fun saying this is a golden try. But that was really a super try, that one. And Adam is a player that probably doesn't get the recognition that he deserves. He's a very talented club centre, and here he is. He backs up Kelly on the inside after accepting a pass from Cox, and from there we see Luckman get inside Niscott again. He's had a very unhappy afternoon, hasn't he?
8 sets of hands. 8 sets of hands. And Kelly makes the bust out on the flank, which was promoted with a nice pass. And then this man Adam has had a super game. He's probably living in the shadow in this match of Simon Brockwell, but he has played well, John Adam. 23 to 4 now in favour of North Sydney with the kick to come. Harry Kelly converts. North Sydney 25, South 4. Where did you come from originally, Simon?
I came from Queanbeyan Kangaroos originally, and I played with Belconnen before that. I was a Belconnen junior. That's in Canberra.
Any thoughts of maybe going back to play with the Raiders?
Well, not as yet. I'm pretty happy at the situation here. You know, it looks like we're in the finals now for sure. And, well, this is probably the biggest thing that's ever happened to me, playing the semi-final down here.
Were you surprised with the ease that you were able to beat the South Sydney outside backs? It seemed to me that you were penetrating there all day long.
Yeah, well, I think Souths play this left-right centre business, you know, and that means they've got a centre aside and they stay that way, you know, whether the ruck, you know, goes to the left side of the field or the right. And that means they've got a forward and then a back out wide. And Mitchell and John Adam were just sort of drawing the outside back and putting me through the gap there. But I was very surprised. There's a lot of room out wide, yeah.
Have you met too many guys in football who can throw a pass like that Mitchell Cox?
No, not too many. It hits you right on the chest every time. It's really good.
I hope the award hits you on the chest too, and I hope it tickles your fancy, because it's a good award.
Yeah, right. Thanks very much, Ray.
Well, you know, we used to go with our mates to the ground. I think it was walk down to the bus stop, catch the 273, to the ground. And the first few games I went to, all we were interested in was, at the end of the game, was the race for the corner post. So I wasn't quite too interested in the rugby league at that stage, but then I got a feel for it and a feel for the atmosphere at the ground, which was fantastic. So I went regularly. I was a religious goer, and I'd have my red and black beanie on and the red and black scarf, and I'd sit on what is now the bob stand. It used to be the toilet blocks there, and we'd sit on the roof. And one game I do remember was in 1982 at North Sydney Oval against Parramatta. You know, the Mick Cronin and Ray Price were playing for Parramatta, so it was a star-studded team, and there were that many people at the ground that they had to put the people over the fence onto the actual surface, and I thought, well, you know, I'd like to be a part of this one day.
We had a good year in 82 because we didn't have any serious injuries that were long-term injuries, and I think that's always got to play a big part in any side's success. We had our first semi-final, and I think we lost Paul McCaffrey with a broken ankle.
Between him and John Gray breaking down, probably the two players who touched the ball most were off the field in the first 20 minutes.
Unfortunately, in the first semi, I broke my arm on Terry Randall's head, of all people. Terry just ducked in time, and I caught my arm across his forehead.
I can guarantee you we would have beaten Manly that day and gone on to perhaps play Parramatta in the grand final if it wasn't for him breaking his arm in the first half.
And Keith Harris and I were going to go see if we could give it to Terry Randall. And we both smashed him, one from one side, one from the other, but he got caught in the middle, and he was the only one left standing at the end of it because we hit him and we fell off, and he just carried on running and scored a try. So to our demise, we managed to muck that up.
Oh, sure, we should have beaten East. We're a much better side than East were. But, you know...
Why did you lose?
Why did we lose? John Gray didn't play for a starter. He broke his arm in the semi-final the week before, and Paul McCaffrey didn't play. And we had good replacements. Pigpen, Kevin Wilson played halfback, and Phil Ritchie, who played a lot of first grade, was our hooker. And we still had a good enough side to beat them. But part of our game plan was to, it was a typical Ron Willie game plan, actually go out and put a blue on in the first couple of minutes in one of the first scrums. And we did that.
You see the bits of streamer and coloured papers. There's a brawl erupted here, the Sydney Creek ground. And the two hookers going at it, hammer and tongs. Ritchie and Masterman away on the right. Graham is in there, I think, with Cleel. There's Cleel, still some more going on in the background. There might be a couple of sin bins out of this lot. The two hookers are still locked together. Now they've been separated. That came from the first scrub of the match. And obviously feeling running pretty high. Let's see the action again. The scrum goes down. And there it was. McKinnon pumping some punches into Aleph. And, well, you can take your pick. That's on for young and old here. Masterman and Ritchie, the two hookers there. Not the biggest men in the world. There's Mark Graham, this North Sydney skipper, having a flurry. And away on the right, another one, little eruption.
Anyway, for about the first 10 minutes after the blue, we didn't know what to do, and they got to a 10-0 lead at half-time with a gale behind their back. And to be honest, we were happy going in at half-time, only be behind by 10 points because there was an absolute gale blowing up the cricket ground, and we were running into it.
Dotting the ground on the quarter line. 10 points to 2. Eastern Suburbs leading after 15 minutes in this sudden death semi-final. Wilson, up she goes. Schubert standing his ground. Takes it, loses it. It's a try!
Don McKinnon.
McKinnon comes up with a try there off a Schubert error. And Schubert really had plenty of time to take that. And that doesn't reflect all that well.
We put on one of our standard plays, which was called America.
Strong Eastern Suburbs defence. And I have the only impression I have is that North can't get through it without, and yes they can. Graham's just put on a beautiful run. Give it away there, Kelly, and Kelly's going to go around and score. Oh, and what a moment now for Kelly. He's going to try to convert this with 9 minutes to go. And he'll probably kick himself for not trying to get round a bit further. A well-executed, planned move with players coming from all directions. That's the way it worked at North Sydney, and has done it again. Now Kelly, let's see whether you could have gone any further. Kelly now with the kick. As we start to conjecture if he kicks this Barry Ross about extra time.
Yes, or the field goal making possible a result.
Now Kelly with his third attempt, he's been successful with the previous two. But not with that one. And I reckon there were 13 people, 14 if you like, including Vol4, all praying at that moment.
We just didn't do well enough to get across the line. It was obviously a game we should have won, but we let it go.
Yeah, Ron Willie left in after 82, after we had our best year for probably 20 or almost 20 years. He left, I think he wanted to stay, but he said to me that about 3 years was about his time at any club, and he'd had 3 years. He had one particular thing comes to mind in end of 82, at a training session at North Sydney Oval. He just absolutely spat the dummy and stormed off and said, "You guys can train yourself, you're training like old Sheilas." And he'd done that quite a few times, not too often, once or twice a season over the 3 years. And on that particular night, there was no reason for him to do that. There was none. So the next night at training, I went up to him and I said, "Ron, mate, we weren't that bad last night." And he said, "No, you weren't." And I said, "You did that on purpose, didn't you?" He said, "Yep." He said, "You realise we've never lost a game when I've put on a tantrum at training and stormed off." And he said, "That's why you don't stay too long. People start seeing through you after a while, and the tricks that work on year 1 and 2 don't work in year 3 and 4.
After us making the semis, I thought I was a good chance of going away. I wasn't certain, of course, but I thought I'd been unlucky not to get picked in the test side against New Zealand earlier in the year. And anyway, the name came out after the grand final, and Parramatta beat Manly in the grand final, and I was staying at over at my then-in-law's place over at Ryde with my first wife Debbie and her parents John and Lavani, listening on the radio, and sure enough the name came out. It was a good feeling.
How many games did you play in the tour?
I played 5 games in England and 4 in France, so I played 9 games.
The 1982 Kangaroo Tour was a bit of a highlight for me, obviously, being coach of an undefeated touring team, and it was a pleasure to be associated with such a group of players. I mean, I was fortunate that most of those players were at the peak of their careers, or coming to the peak of their careers, and they just gelled together magnificently, and it was a pleasure to be associated with.
Although weary after nearly 3 months of bitter cold and hard football, you couldn't have found a happier bunch at Sydney Airport this morning.
While there was a good crowd on hand to welcome the team, the welcome itself was surprisingly tame. It was mainly a time for wives, girlfriends and families for the footballers who achieved something no other touring side has ever done. 22 matches, including 5 tests without a loss. Despite the successes on the field, the tour financially will be lucky to break even. But that was far from the minds of the players today.
I left the country, Forbes, where I was born and bred, come down to Sydney to get a job. I was going to be a farmer, but the big drought there, 82, it was just barren. It was a desert. We were living in dust storms. It was horrible. It was dry. We had no water, had no fresh water. We were carting water to the farm to feed the animals. We were carting water to the house to drink. We were having baths and showers in town at my grandmother's place, or it was just no water. It was just a drought that probably Sydney people don't understand what a drought, what impact it has on your personal life out in the country.
I was, to be quite frank, I was shocked when Ron Willie left the football club. When I was contacted and asked whether I wanted to be the first grade coach, the first person I rang was Ron Willie to find out what the situation was. And Ron at that stage had some falling out with some officials, but he'd also had another job and quite frankly wanted me to go with him. But I had the opportunity to be the first grade coach then, and obviously I took it. In 1983, I didn't see it as an awesome task at all to be the first grade coach. I had a solid grounding of 7 years in grade at that stage. I was included in most things and most activities that Ron Willie, as the first grade coach in the year prior, had done. I had a good solid base with the players and a good understanding of the players, so I couldn't foresee any great problems at all.
With Mitchell Cox running around and getting a pass away to Darren Rogers. Comes to Phil Blake. A big palm off the ball back inside. He's on the ground. Spina picks it up. Play on to the referee. Spina loses the ball as he lunges at the line.
Thompson. Oh, they've put it down Manly, and they've come through by North Sydney. The chase is on now. Teasdale after it. Still going Teasdale. Now they pick it up North, and the ball's to the line. There's a chance for North Sydney if they can unload. But brought down. Dave Burns just brought down. Trying to get it out wide. There's plenty of support for North. If they can clear it, there's the pass out to Luckman. Luckman going for the corner. It's going to be close. I think it's a try.
50% success rate for John Gray today. A difficult kick at the best of times, but with that football weighing a ton, it's incredibly difficult. And unsuccessful, so the score remains North Sydney 20 leading Canberra 6 as we watch Fred Arcoy scooting away. Conditions not unlike Carlaw Park in Auckland, and Fred's played there many times, as recently as last Sunday for New Zealand, giving a perfectly timed pass away to Darren Rogers. Very impressive youngster, this fellow. Saw the tackle of Worth coming across, but able to step out of it. And set sail for the line as he's tackled right over the line. A good try.
Who's your favourite player?
Physically, I'm talking about.
Oh, physically, well, that's very hard. John Gray.
I'm sure he's very flattered.
Yes, I'm sure. Actually, he's lost a lot of weight since last season. He's very trim, taut, and terrific.
We were full of optimism after 1982. We thought this was going to be the year. We started off, the training was great, new coach, Chow Hayes. But then the jinx hit us again, the North Sydney jinx, I suppose. I'll never work it out, but John Gray broke his arm and was on and off the field when he came back with the arm. And then Mark Graham also had one of his years of injury. He had 2 years of constant injuries, and this was one of them. And when you lose your 2 trump cards and early on the season, the rest of the team, we played pretty well, and I think we just missed out on the semis, but you lose your best 2 players, and North just didn't have the backup to carry them through and wait till they came back. So, you know, I think 83 was just a victim of circumstances. So many injuries throughout the year, and we just didn't have the luck on our side.
It's Keith Harris, the North Sydney second rower, vastly experienced player. Ross Conlon gets the match underway at North Sydney Oval, and North Sydney defending the old fig tree end as Alan Burns takes the ball up strongly. Cox, now McKinnon, able to slip the pass away to Spina, making good ground, Spina, up towards the halfway mark. The other big front row forward for North Sydney, Mayo. McKinnon still able to back up, and there goes Kelly. Kelly into the clear, but brilliantly caught by Chris Mortimer. Gee, strong attack from North Sydney in the early moments of this match. Luckman. Working play to the centre of the field. Ritchie, crisscross move, and it's Darren Rogers. Only 8 metres out. Spina reaching out, it's still about 2 metres short now. Bears raiding away at the Bulldogs line. There's Big Mayo, lunges at the line. Is he there? I think he's there. And referee Roberts thinks so too and awards the try. Big Steve Mayo.
Using the back line now, they're nice and deep. He's Worth again. Ian Maurice mentioned how hard he's hitting the line, and that's exactly what he's doing again. Stephen Folkes having a wrestling match. Spina, Cox. Ball being shown. Harris with plenty of experience. He gets it out to Cox. Here's Larry Kelly. Larry Kelly on the ball, and he'll go over. Oh, great try from the Bears. They open them up. Oh, the Bears in full flight.
This is their
set move again. They put it on in every match, and it comes off just about every time I've had the pleasure of watching North Sydney. Beautifully executed. Cox back into Kelly, and it was just a run to the line. A very great try and a great move that they've got North, and full marks to their coach, Chow Hayes, for having the boys execute as well as they do.
Chow Hayes now, and what a happy man he'd be. He said in the press that this week that he refused to give up. They could make the final 5.
There's Spina trying to regather. It's come off his shoe, I thought. Play on, said the referee. That's a good ruling. And here go the Bears again with McKinnon striding out. McKinnon to the corner line. He's got support in Luckman. The Bears are in for their 3rd try. Chris Luckman. Came off that North Sydney player's shoe. Now watch McKinnon stretch out here. Saw the gap. A dummy. Away he went. Luckman running with him. Anderson caught in no man's land. And a good ball from McKinnon to Luckman, who outpaced the opposition to score in the corner. His 12th try for this year.
Beautiful little chip kick, this one. Barely regathered, but it certainly was effective enough to get his foot to the ball. Well done by Burns to unload then quickly to McKinnon, who dummied and then went on with the job. A bit unusual for the experience of Chris Anderson not to run his winger away, but it was a great try there to North. One well deserved. They're certainly playing with a lot of drive.
That's the quarter line he has the ball placed on. And as you can see, he's about a metre and a half into the touchline. He's hit it. Looks pretty good in the air, and it's a magnificent kick from Larry Kelly. What a beauty, right over the black dot.
Big inside North Sydney territory, won by Canterbury. Hughes looking to unload, but well, the support's not in position. It seemed shaped the pass, had to go down with it. Anderson now.
Anderson will notice has come in off his wing to try and gee this Canterbury side up. He is the captain. He's playing dummy half. He's getting in his first man off the ruck.
Steve Mortimer. Mortimer with a little break. He's got support to him. He got unloaded. He will. It'll be Canterbury under the post. Oh, great stuff, and put that one down to Steve Mortimer. Still Sydney defence swarming. They're taking the man ball and all. Steve Mortimer. Hughes. Turns it back inside for his brother Mortimer. Now to Steve Mortimer. He's got the line open. What do we say about Steve Mortimer in? Oh, what's a game with a great try. Oh, the Mortimer brothers are all over the place today.
18-14 to score. The North Sydney Bears lead.
Arthur Summers, it's great to see another healthy crowd at North Sydney Oval today. A big crowd last Sunday, and the game is alive and well when the product is right.
That's very true, Dale. There's no question about that. Look at this crowd.
Here's Luckman. Luckman out into clear. Brentnell to beat. Luckman takes on Brentnell. He gets through Brentnell, and Brentnell comes back and just ankle taps him, and they get him down from behind. Great run from Luckman and a great tackle from Brentnell. He wasn't going to let him through him. Now it's Kelly. Now it's Spina. On to Ritchie. McKinnon flicks it back to Ritchie. Spina again. They're going nowhere. They're dancing on the spot. Spina straightens it up. Gets a good pass away this time, though. The Bears inside the 22, going backwards, though. Burns with a great run to the 22. Don't forget, North's are 4 points in front. A try now. Could be a healthy one. McKinnon. Work. Goes on to Adam. Long looping pass. They're still keeping alive, the Bears. Still going. Here's Mayo. Chance. Chance for Spina. He's beside the post. Great football. North Sydney. Oh, they just kept it alive, and they wore Canterbury down. Good football. They come this side now. Spina almost through a little half gap and closed pretty quickly with Robinson, who said thank you. Belcher down. Big tough. Pretty fierce side to run to was Robinson. Adam puts the ball in the air. Oh, good bounce too. Good bounce for Shepherd as he makes a bust about another 15 metres down the touchline. He's only about 4 metres out now, and the Bears back on the attack. Another kick from Adam. Well placed too and taken well. That was Chris Mortimer, plucked it out of the air and took the tackle.
I was just going to say Adam's little chip was magnificent early and just at the right time, but that one certainly wasn't. He shouldn't have kicked then, and they were on the boil and should have kept it going.
This is Anderson. Anderson split him. Another good run from Anderson. Burns with some good cover defence took him. Cox is down with Ritchie is down with cramp, being treated at the moment. Here's Robinson, unloads to Conlon. This game being played at a fierce pace.
Look how quick Canterbury came back. They were all north then, and yet Canterbury are now to the halfway and going on with it.
Barra, nice pass off Mortimer. Gets out of one. Barra still going. Unloads. Back inside to Johnston. Johnston wrapped up. Unloads again though. Canterbury, the entertainers, back in business. Folks, a long pass out wide. It's gone astray. Picked up by Conlon. Conlon's got support on the Mortimer, but I think it's a forward pass. But is he in? Let's wait and see what happens. That's a try.
Spino caught on the sideline. Now, Fred Arcoy on the sideline for North Sydney, ready to come on. A very strong game in reserve grade, but look at the Bears falling in each other's way. It's still very close to the line. Burns. Inching closer. Back with Cox, a field goal attempt. It looks good to me. It's a goal. A field goal to Mitchell Cox. And that was an excellent field goal from Mitchell Cox. He was under plenty of pressure too. Saw the defence coming, but cool as you like, right between the posts. 25-18, North Sydney lead. Number 16, Fred Arcoy, is on. Right on the North Sydney quarter line. Johnston, Anderson. Steve Mortimer and Gary Hughes again. And Conlon running onto that pass. Out of one tackle, Conlon. He's got support too. Steve Mortimer lunges at the line. And that's a try.
And there they are, the mighty North Sydney Bears, hanging on by the skin of their teeth to outlast Canterbury by 25 points to 24.
And he said it's very important they do this today. Here's Russell Gardner. Gardner with a break, gets it back to Neil. Neil got support too with Barclay. Barclay in full stride. They won't get him. Barclay will score for the Roosters right beside the post. And I said they want to use this fellow. Oh, gee, went in with a shoulder charge and he's still down. Mitchell Cox. Mitchell Cox through. Only Marty Gurner beat. He's got support coming up through. That's Keith Harris. Harris unloads with a lob pass. And North Sydney will go in with Kelly. Great try from North Sydney. The great bust from Mitchell Cox.
1983, I don't see it as a decline at all. If we win the last game against Balmain, we make the semi-finals. It's as simple as that. The easiest excuse to make in a season that's not as successful as the prior one is injuries. But I will make a point, and I've done some research on this. In 1982, Ron Woolley used 22 players. We used 32 in 1983. We didn't have 32 first-grade players in that club, I can tell you. That will give you some indication of the injury list that we had. And also, I must point out, that's prior to 17-man squads. This is 13-man squads. We used more than 2.5 teams throughout the season. So whilst it's not the best excuse in the world, it's a valid excuse.
John Adam, Addo, fantastic timer of the ball. He had great anticipation. In fact, he had a bit of a streak there going with intercepts. And that won our big play, that America play, and we had another version called Canada. He was the bloke that I always run off because I always knew I was going to get the ball off him at the right time. And he was one of those all-round athletes. Could have been a very good cricketer too, and I think he may have been.
Simon Brockwell was a great player. He was renowned during the early 80s as one of the toughest backs that had played the game, and we played some pretty good centre pairings between us, Rogers and Cronin and a host of others. And I don't think in 81, 82, 83 that any centre pairing ever got over both of us.
When Newtown went out of the competition in 1983, my immediate thoughts were that we had surrendered. And to this day, I believe that had we fought in as much as Western Suburbs did and stayed in the competition by taking the league to court, we would have still been in the competition.
1984 may have appeared very, very promising to most of our supporters, but the reality is the names of the Coopers and the Murphys and the Walfords, they were hardly household names. I'd like to think that we made Rick Walford a household name. I'd like to think that we improved Graham Jennings, who was a second grader at Penrith, and he played a lot of first grade for us, was a very useful player. In no way do I denigrate the contribution those guys made to us, but the reality was I don't think they were top of the mill first grade players. My own opinion would be that we should have probably pooled the money that they cost us, and I have absolutely no idea because I wasn't part of the process, and probably bought one or two top line players. Having said that, a guy like Bob Cooper could have been a great asset to us, but Bob hadn't played for 15 months. He'd had a 15-month suspension, and he dislocated his elbow in the second trial match. Without going back to the problem with injuries, obviously they were contributions the same year, because in that year we used 31 players.
As North Sydney start to come onto the field, as you see them come out of the tunnel, being led out by their captain, Mark Graham. There's Mitchell Cox coming out. You'll notice that slightly overcast conditions prevailing here at North Sydney Oval, and there's the North Sydney team. The fullback Wayne Lonergan, the wingers this afternoon Alan Shepard and Chris Luckman, centres Wayne Wigham, Simon Brockwell, the 5'8" Mitchell Cox, the halfback Paul McCaffrey, at lock forward Graham Jennings, the second rowers Mark Graham, who's captain, and also Fred Teasdale. The hooker there is Phil Ritchie, and the props, of course, are Don McKinnon and Lindsay Johnston. We go through it at fullback Brian Johnson, the wingers Steve Guerin and Steve Morris, in the centres Michael O'Connor and Brian Johnston, at 5'8" Michael Beattie, at halfback Perry Haddock, lock forward Graham O'Grady, the second rowers Pat Jarvis and Chris Walsh, the props Craig Young, who's captain, and number 13 Robert Stone, and number 12 the hooker is Richard Jones. The quarter line, Ritchie, McCaffrey, Cox. Now Don McKinnon charging ahead. The St George defence holds strong. Beattie and O'Grady. It's Ritchie. McCaffrey looking for a gap down the centre, but it closed very quickly. Beattie was the main defender on that occasion. Now Cox tries the little grubber kick through. The ball and having all sorts of trouble, and I think there's a try over there. Chris Luckman scored. Through from Mitchell Cox, found the St George defence wanting, so let's have a look at the replay again from behind the post. Now there's Mitchell Cox. Now look at the little kick through, perfectly positioned. Now Michael O'Connor going back, Brian Johnson, and notice Steve Guerin can't take the ball, it comes off his knees. Luckman just puts the ball, hand on the ball. There's the kick, deep down into St George's territory. Lonergan underneath it, takes it well. Midway between the half and quarter line, his own end of the field. Kicks it back towards Johnson, trying to find touch. Johnson does well. And he kicks it out on the full. A bad mistake. One would say that certainly Lonergan came out of that with the kicking honours. Scrum, it's a North Sydney win. McCaffrey, away it goes to Cox. Back inside to Brockwell, finds some room. Good tackle round the legs by O'Grady. Some good work. Battle on the North Sydney backs. Lonergan in up in the line. Look at that St George defence. That's good tackling, taking him right back to the halfway mark. Ritchie. Right goes to McKinnon. Young involved again with the tackling. Ritchie in a dummy half. Run round with McCaffrey, now onto big Lindsay Johnston. St George forwards have been up very quickly. I'm surprised to see that kick behind the defence again. They're moving up quickly, and look at Mark Graham steaming onto the ball to Fred Teasdale, and Teasdale will score under the post. Oh, so easy. Good work to Barry Barnes playing the advantage rule.
Yes, he held off that whistle just long enough to allow St George to gain possession.
There's the kick. It's another long kick, and again, North Sydney allowing the ball to bounce. Now Lonergan trying to run it away from O'Connor, who's up very quickly, and so to Morris. That's It's midway between the half and quarter line in North Sydney's territory. Brockwell. Ritchie. Straight through the defence. Ritchie's got support either side. Gets the pass away, and McCaffrey will score for North under the post. North Sydney 14, St George 2. So what will St George do here? No doubt they'll attempt the bomb. There's Haddock. There's the ball high in the air. Not much pressure there for the North Sydney players, although the ball's been dropped. Now they've got a chance. Morris with it. Morris goes one way, keeps going. Who might even score himself? St George think he scored, and the referee, Barry Barnes, agrees. Ritchie. Caffrey. Thought he was going to try the chip kick for a second. Midway between the half and quarter line, St George's territory. Now McKinnon again runs into some solid defence out on the blind side, right on the St George quarter line. That's Jim Walsh, the replacement there, plays it back. Ritchie. There's Cox attempting a field goal. It looks pretty good from here. That's very good. That's an extra point for North Sydney. Straight down the centre by North Sydney. This could be a try on. Brockwell in support. Brockwell going for the line. Brian Johnston giving chase. The ball goes back inside. It's gone loose, but I think it might well be a North Sydney try, is it?
It's an excellent decision by the referee there.
Wayne Wiggum has scored the try.
For replay.
Here's Jennings making the break for North Sydney. Straight down the centre of the St George ruck. He had support. Came to the fullback, sent the pass. That's Simon Brockwell, who looked as if he'd score himself. Now look at the way that Wayne Wiggum's held back by Steve Morris. Brian Johnston comes across. The pass goes back inside. Wiggum doing well, holds the ball. He goes to ground. I'd say Simon Brockwell will easily be classed as today's man of the match. He's had an outstanding game for North Sydney. Now Cole Murphy running into Jim Walsh. He's only got a few minutes left in the game. It's a run round with Wiggum. Wiggum's got Brockwell in support, and the man of the match will score a try. Well, what a way for Simon Brockwell to finish this 80 minutes of football here this afternoon, because he's had an outstanding game. He's had 17 tackles. There's Wayne Lonergan. See, just to the left of the uprights. There's the kick, no mistake. It's there. About 8 or 9 metres out from the line on tackle number 5. Morris, O'Grady. O'Grady puts the bomb up high in the air. It's coming down just behind near the goalpost. Craig Young picks it up. He gets it out there to Gearin, and Gearin will score for St George. There's the kick from Gearin. Straight between the posts. St George managed to get to 20 points. It's North Sydney 27, St George 20.
Well, again, 1984 was a very frustrating season, especially for me, because at the start of the season I contracted hepatitis, and I was out for nearly half the season in the early part. I only just played the last 9 or 8 games.
So, you know, I played in a few first grade games that year, but I just don't think I got a chance. It was interesting. I played reserve grade most of the year, and with about 6 or 8 games to go, the Chow came down to training and said, Addo, I can get you in first grade for the weekend. And reserve grade was going pretty well, and Chicken Norton was coach, and we were having a good team. And I said to him, Chow, don't tell them to get stuffed. So I played reserve grade, and 3 games later broke my arm, and that was it. Goodbye rugby league.
So yeah, I had a shoulder problem at that stage myself, and I actually played 3 games with my shoulder dislocated because they told me it was all right. So I just thought I must have been a weak bastard, so I went out and played with it. And quite funny, even today, you might get a laugh out of this. We've got a couple of blokes with serious shoulder injuries, and they're showing me how much restricted movement they've got, and they've still got twice as much of what I've got in my bad shoulder. But that's just football and that's life. And I always figured that we were getting paid to play, and if you'd had to take an injury along the way with it, that's what you're getting paid to do. So that was the way we should think about football. I was always felt sorry for Chow in that I couldn't repay the faith he obviously had in me through injuries. And his first grade coaching career was limited to 2 seasons, and I felt I most probably, had I been able to play longer, his career would have been longer too.
McKinnon was looking as though he'd back up. Good breakthrough this time by Spino. He could be a danger man for South Sydney. He'll get up and play it to Don McKinnon, play inside the South Sydney half. There was no one towards McKinnon's left. That's where he thought he might have some support. Played away up there by Brockwell, got his pass away beautifully to back inside. Lovely hit. Jennings will score.
As far as Mark Graham's concerned, he played half the games that was available in 1983-84. Mark Graham's contribution couldn't be measured. In my opinion, if Mark Graham plays in the team, we win 8 out of 10 games. He's just an absolutely superb player and a great influence on the other people around him.
Out to the centres this time, Brockwell. Brockwell trying back up for the pass back from Tate, who's burst through anyway. He's got Brockwell trailing him, but he's gone the wrong way. Gets it back here to Casey, the fullback, and Casey will score, and Casey will score under the post.
Long ball. Cutting out 3 or 4 players. In fact, eventually on the second bouncer was scooped away by Alan Burns, taken up by Don McKinnon. Don McKinnon, what's he doing out that wide? Nigel Tate getting a pass away to Simons. He'll score. He's been trying hard all night down that flank.
And there's the incident in slow motion. And Bob Cooper, who's had very little lady luck in his rugby league career, comes from the field of play. But North, they continued with their try-scoring blitz, and you're about to see Ricky Walford, after 15 minutes, running onto a Jennings pass. Jennings playing at hooker yesterday, and Walford, the former Eastern Suburbs wing three-quarter, he scored a total of 18 points in the game, so he was kept pretty busy. He scores, and the Bears lead by 10-0.
We uncomfortable feel, and we find the wisest thing is to slap our chests and sing ta-da, ta-da.
But the North Sydney Blues are apparent in more ways than one. Within the first grade ranks exists a special force, which has helped the Bears strive for victory. The police connection is strong in Bear territory, and discipline a prime quality. Coach Sergeant John Hayes may well see his weekly duties like this.
Take one consideration with another. Policeman's lot is not a happy one. Oh, when constabulary duty to be done, to be done. Policeman's lot is not a happy one.
It was much harder appearing on rugby league new faces than it ever was in the police force, I can tell you.
Dad said, see how the other half live. Go to Sydney, so I come down here. Ended up living in Mossman. And I just had a mate there who said, the best way to meet people is play footy. So I played with North Sydney Brothers, so the local junior team there. And one of my best mates became my best mate, Kevin Marr. He played a bit of grade there and still one of my best mates. And he said, this guy can play a bit. And so he took me aside, took me under his wing, and next year we both got asked to play President's Cup. The year after that we both got asked to go down and play grade, so I was 85, we'll go down to grade.
Well, initially I came to the Willoughby Football Club, and that was in about 1973, where I stayed for a couple of years, and I played a couple of years above my age. And then I went from Willoughby to Crow's Nest, played there for a couple of years, won a premiership there. And then from Crow's Nest to McMahon's Point to Brothers, all in the period from, say, 1973 till about 83, 84. In the between times, I had the taste of rugby union with the Lane Cove Club and the Wakehurst Club. And then when I did go into North Sydney, I was at quite a crossroads. I also had an option to play rugby union, an offer there. So it was quite a big decision. I remember, when Dennis Constantine rang me up on the Saturday and said, look, we want you to come down and play tomorrow in the 23s. Are you available? And the very same weekend I just played rugby union and I was selected in the New South Wales side to tour Japan. So I said, yeah, I'll take the money, and I had to ring the union up and say I was unavailable. So it was quite a moment that weekend.
Well, I'll be honest, I had the offer to do the job again in 1985. I had things to do in the police force. I had a young family. I was a full-time policeman. I was trying to coach a first-grade football team. The reality was I was probably not doing any one of the three jobs properly.
And I was second grade then to Chow Hayes. And then from Chow Hayes along came Greg Haywick. Greg Haywick became the first grade coach, and I was still the second grade coach.
In 1985, there was an influx of players who left the club, and you do hear things. But I think at that year, I think financially they weren't doing very well financially, and of course they couldn't pay the players, and obviously these players' contracts are up as well, so they were looking elsewhere to play because the Norths were not offering the money that other clubs were offering them, so they'd left. So that was disappointing. And that year, obviously, 1985, we had a new coach in Greg Haywick, and didn't start off very well.
I like Greg Haywick. He's a lovely guy, and but the committee have got to take some of the blame for this because you know, they let so many first grade players go from 1984. You know, guys like Ricky Walford, Nigel Tate, Errol Hillier, John Adam retired, Chris Luckman retired. Chris Luckman was only 27 years old when he retired, and they just left a huge hole there and really left him a very ordinary playing strength to work with.
Gives it to Burns. Good pass back to Lyons. Here's a chance for North. McCaffrey. Good last-ditch tackle from Andrews. North's a good show here on the blind side. Teasdale gives it. Tate's over. Not quite in. Right on the line. Lyons throws the dummy. He's over. Lyons has scored. Squeezed through. Lyons has been involved in so much of North's play. Has come up with the first try of the match. You watch it right on the line here. Throws the dummy and then just gets the ball down on the line. Lyons picking it up beautifully again off Mark Graham. Graham's got it again. Graham's in to score. What a try. Tate. McCaffrey. Now where's that going to fall? Nicely for the winger Robinson. He gives it back to Lyons. There goes McCaffrey. McCaffrey's got pace. McCaffrey's going to score. North will win the game.
Look, I say to this day, it wasn't his fault that he got the job. Someone had to employ him, and the same people that employed him had to sack him. And when they sacked him, they should have sacked themselves too. Greg was a bloke from the old school who hadn't done any recent coaching by the time he got to us. We used to have to remind him that there was 6 tackles and we had to kick the football, or 5 tackles and we had to kick the football. And you know, he was about just flogging us day in and day out and throwing us the ball on the last training session. And although floggings were the order of the day in those days, you know, we needed to have some sort of game plan also, and that was very restricted. In the end, I'd had enough of him and he'd had enough of me. And
well, just to be perfectly honest, the North Sydney side in those days was considered to be a little bit of a joke. That might be a little hard, but generally they finished at the bottom of the table. They were a side that you had to be careful with because you were expected to beat them, and that's where the danger can lie. But I can recall, just from my memory, the mid-'80s, which was quite a strong period for my club, Souths. North Sydney were wallowing at the bottom of the table in those days.
Because there were a lot of senior players in the club who were disappointed in his coaching ability. We'd seem to be playing out of position, and we weren't winning games, so obviously that had a lot to do with it as well.
I'd just been given the opportunity. Playing great football with North Sydney wasn't an ambition or a goal of mine, so I was just along there for the ride. I was there having a good time. My other view is that because I just came down just enjoying myself, I didn't really worry about that side of the thing because I was worried in trying to perform week in, week out.
I used to talk to a reporter, John Harker, week after week after, and it was a regular Monday conversation I had with him. I became sort of quite good friends with him. It was a regular conversation that I had with him. And then just one week I just came out saying, look, we're not happy with the coach, we'd like to get a new coach, no one's happy with him. And of course the next day in the paper there's headline news. So of course myself and Mark Graham were called in to the committee of the North Sydney Leagues Club and we discussed the situation between us and the coach at the time. And they, after that meeting they decided that they wanted to get a new coach.
There's a few other things that happened behind the scenes that sort of put a bit of pressure on myself and I suppose the administrators of the club. And at the end of the day, with a couple of games to go, Greg got the sack and Chicka Norton came in. And Chicka was a fine man and everyone respected Chicka, and he'd been a reserve grade coach here for many years and a bit of a legend around North Sydney. And I think we only went to the playoffs in the semi the next year under him, but there was still plenty of potential in the club. And that year, actually, Cliffy Lyons came with John Hawick, and he had the 1 year there, and then he went on to Manly to become a legend down there. So it was a shame that we missed out on him. But, yeah, it was a year that I'd sooner regret. I think internationally I played very well, but for the club scene it was pretty average.
From 1982 through to 84, we developed the scheme for the Oval. Incidentally, we also had to develop a way of financing it because you couldn't finance the redevelopment out of rates. The Rugby League wouldn't pay. They did, in fact, in the end, pay $125,000 out of $7 million. But that $7 million had to be raised, and that was raised by the council through a fairly complicated process that didn't involve loans or rates. So that was a massive achievement in itself.
I think the 85 side was most probably one of the finest sides I got to play with as far as the Kiwis went. We got rolled in the first test in Brisbane by a forward pass that John Rebo scored. And the second test, the same thing. It was a forward pass to John Rebo again. And if you ever have a look at the footage, have a look at the lines on the football field, it's about 10 metres forward. But we still ended up getting rolled. And the last test, we beat them 18-0, and I think it was the first time that Australia's ever been held 0 in a test match. And yeah, we deservedly won that, and most probably should have won that series.
The hero was the man who masterminded that wonderful Kiwi victory, Coach Graham Lowe. Over in the corner, the Australians, looking understandably unhappy, sat and watched their appalling performance on TV replay. Though they'd lost the series, the Kiwis were certainly the flavour of the night. And their skipper Mark Graham explained how important yesterday's win was to the code in New Zealand.
It's a union-orientated country, as you no doubt aware. And I think people will come to their games now and watch exciting football, as all the three tests this year have been.
It was Graham's marvellous combination with halfback Clayton Friend that swung the test New Zealand's way. But the Kiwi named man of the series last night, 5'8" Olsen Filipina. And if Olsen proved a handful for Australia's Wally Lewis, last night Olsen's ever so proud mum proved an equal handful for her son.
Well, see, when I took over, I was really keen on keeping, halfway through the season, I was really keen on keeping Cliff Lyons, and I was really keen on keeping Mitchell Cox. At all costs. At all costs.
I'd always been in contact with Bob Fulton. Because he guided me to play rugby. He said I had the skills to play rugby league, and so I had a sort of a relationship with Bob Fulton. And of course he was coaching me at the time. So I think it was just a thing that I wasn't at the time. I wasn't very happy with North. I mean, it was a great club and the players and everything else, but there were other things going on. I wasn't very happy. So North and Manly offered me a contract, and I wanted to get in it because it was where I lived and grew up. So I think it was just a natural thing that happened.
Yeah, Cliff Lyons, I remember he came to training, he came up with Greg because Greg knew him from down the River Arena somewhere. I think he coached him at junior or coaching in the River Arena rep side or whatever. And he's another bloke I'd never heard of in my life. And I remember running around down Tugs Park at training, and Cliff sidled up alongside me, or I sidled up alongside Cliff as we're doing a warm-up lap, and introduced myself to him and asked him where he came from. And I said, how old are you, Cliff? And he said, oh, 23, 24 this year. This is 1985. And I thought, too too old for under 23s. I wonder what they got him up here for. Anyway, I soon found out. He started off in reserve grade and ended up playing 18 first grade games or so that year, and you know, he was obviously a very classy player, showed a lot of class even with an ordinary side. And anyway, he was being good mates with Greg Haywick at the end of the year. He only signed for 1 year, and I don't think on a matter of principle, even if North offered him the world, he wouldn't have stayed at North. I think he was pretty upset about the treatment that Greg got, and he just wanted to go elsewhere. I don't think he would have stayed at North no matter what they offered him. So I don't think he was really one that got away. I think he was one that wanted to go away.
And then I was elected then to be the first grade coach for 1986, and then we looked around and we thought, well, North Sydney now have got to stand up and be counted.
the Bears. We're determined and we just don't care who we play or who we maul. Our team's gonna rule them all. We're proud and we're tough, not stopping till we've had enough. We're mean, we're on the prowl. Our team's gonna knock them out. Everybody's gonna scream and shout. The red and blacks are gonna make